We have a couple of these mics that we'll take around and
One,
ask
one,
questions.
two,
Hello.
I think just a little bit.
Do you need to?
By the way, this is being videoed, so if you don't want to be videoed, just keep looking front.
Do you want that close? No. Do you leave that open?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes? We're okay? Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome. For some of you that don't know me, my name is Jupiter, like the planet. That's my real name. That's not my nickname. I have no brothers and sisters, so there's no Mars, Saturn, Venus, anything like that, okay? My daughter is here with me today, the Sidania. Raise your hand. Maybe in the near future she will come and give a cultural awareness class here in the future. And also, it's interesting, she's my family, Feri, who is next to my daughter. Just want to tell you now that she was my mother-in-law nanny, my wife's nanny, and my daughter's nanny. So she's family. Okay, so today we'll be talking about geology. What does geology have to do with the maths? What does geology have to do with the traditions in Colima? Well, first of all, we're going to talk about this person. Has anyone been to the Petatera, first of all? Okay, raise your hand. Yes. When you have been there, have you been there in an event or just to go and see it? The event, with me, okay? With the actual killing of the bull or maybe of a rodeo, because they're like different versions of the Petatera. Okay, so for those of you who haven't heard about this, today we're talking about La Petatera. We're going to talk first about a man by the name of Felipe de las Casas. Has anyone heard of him before? Felipe de las Casas? Has anyone seen the movie The Silence recently? It's a movie about his life. Okay, well, who was Felipe de las Casas? He was born in 1572. He became a Franciscan, and then afterwards he decided to help his dad. His dad was a very rich entrepreneur that was working with silver, so he had a lot of money. And so Felipe de las Casas was helping him, and he decided to go to the Philippines. And then when he was there, bless you, his money, he ran out of money. So he was on like a vacation and he ran out of money, and he ran out of friends, because since he was a rich kid, he had a lot of friends, and then he had no money, he had no friends. So he ran out of money, and then he turned back and said, well, I think I feel the call of God, and he became a Franciscan again. Then the Catholic Church in Mexico City told him to come back from the Philippines, so they can, I don't know how you say this, but to turn him into a priest, like the ordered him, yes. And then so there were several of them. They got on a boat, and a big storm hit them, and they landed in Japan. They couldn't arrive over here to Mexico. So once they were there, they started preaching, and after several years, the government was against that, and they started capturing them, and they started taking them to different places to show the people what could happen to them if they did the same thing. So eventually he got killed, and he died in 1597 in Japan. He was blessed, in Spanish called Beato, in 1672, and then he was, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, canonized, yes, in 1862. And he became the first Mexican saint, and now he's known as San Felipe de Jesus. San Felipe de Jesus instead of Felipe de las Casas. So now we're going to go to Colima. Remember that we have, I think we've talked about these before in previous years. The Spaniards arrived here in 1523. And then in 1527, they moved to where downtown Colima is. Raise your hand who has been in Colima. There we go. Okay, you remember the big cathedral in the main plaza? Okay, that wasn't like that all the time. First, it was built with maybe like something like this, with logs and a thatched roof, and then we would have very strong earthquakes, and we would have also lots of thunder during the rainy season. Right now, I think when I wasn't born in Colima, I was born in Mexico City, but eventually when I was 11 years old, my parents thought it was a good place to live, and we moved there. And I remember the first summer that we arrived there in 1985, I would shut my eyes, put my hands on top of my eyes, and I could still feel the flash of the thunder. It was big thunderstorms back then. Now they haven't been as severe as they were back then, but I imagine that previously they were very strong. So sometimes you might see you're driving on the road and you see a palm tree and you see no leaves at the top. It's because lightning struck it. So it was very common. So the church, where the cathedral is now, would catch on fire. Not only the church, there will be different buildings that would catch on fire because of the lightning. So they named him San Felipe de Jesus, the patron against earthquakes and fires. Remember, the coast, we're on a very high seismic area. We have 4 tectonic plates that affect Mexico. That's why I said we're going to talk about geology. Because we have the North American plate, we have the Pacific plate, and then we have 2 short plates called Coco and Rivera, which are shifting under the North American plate. And throughout many years since the Spaniards arrived and started registering the earthquakes, we have had over 17 major earthquakes. Has anyone heard or been to Cuyuclan? In the coast, where they have the turtle sanctuary, where we have the black sand beach? Yes, a couple of you? Okay, well, that place, there was a tsunami in 1932. And it was caused by the shifting of the tectonic plates. That earthquake is considered the 28th biggest earthquake in history of Earth. So, and we have had, not as big as that, but we have had major earthquakes in this area. So that's why they named him patron against fire and earthquakes. The last big earthquake we had was in 2003. Was anyone here when that happened? Yes. Did you feel it here? No, you didn't? You did?
Yes.
After a couple of drinks, everyone like, woo! Okay. That earthquake officially was a 7.6. You look it up, I think it's 7.6. Unofficially, it was an 8.2 earthquake. Why? Because insurance companies say it's an act of God and we don't cover that. So the government said it was a little bit lower. So they were able to not, the government wouldn't pay the people, so they were covered by insurance. So we have very big earthquakes. It's not a pattern, but we had a big one in 1985. The center was from the coast south of Mexico City. It was very big in Mexico City. I don't know if you remember that. In Colima, I was already living there when that happened, and I couldn't walk from here to the speaker. I would fall and fall and fall, and that was also a big earthquake. Then you had the one in 1995 that was here in the coast, that some hotels fell down, and that was also very big. And then, like I said, the oldest, biggest one, or the most recent biggest one, was in 2003. So they named San Felipe de Jesus patron to protect them from these earthquakes. And they start also these festivities that involve the Petatera. I'm going to give you some facts about this. We're going to talk about the construction that it is made of. It is made out of these mats, not this big, or a little bit bigger, called petate. And this basically is made out of palm or reed. You've seen the ones that grow in the water? Okay, so this was used by the indigenous people as a mattress because they had no mattresses back then, so they would sleep on the floor, and if they had a little bit more money, they would sleep on this. And this was laid out at night, and then it was rolled up, and it was kept during the day so it wouldn't get dirty, you wouldn't step on it. Now we use this to make the bullfighting ring. Something interesting about this is when people used to die, they would roll them up in this, and then they would put them inside the grave, and they would bury them. And there's an expression when someone died, you might still hear this, it says, se petateó, which means we rolled them up in the petate, we put him in, we buried him. And there are many expressions that, until I was researching more about this, you might hear that someone might say, it smells like petate quemado. Have you heard that? Huele a petate quemado. It means someone is smoking weed. Yes. I was like, oh, really? This is what it means. Okay. So, they make these mats. They use 1,890 mats to make these. They're about a meter and a half long by meter and a half wide by 2 meters long. There are different sizes, but most of them are about that size. It can, if you put it on the ground, you can fit 2 people side by side. It has a 2,000 square meter seating area all around inside. It has 1,330 otates. What is an otate? You have the bamboo, which is normally about this big, right? You have the otate, which is a smaller type of bamboo, about this thick. And then you have carrizo, which is much smaller. If you ask the old folks about carrizo, they say, no, don't talk about that. Because when you were in school and you were not behaving, the teacher would say, go and cut a little bit of carrizo, and then put your hands and put that. So that was something you didn't want to mess with. So it is made with 1,330 otates. It has 1,750 boards of wood. They're like rectangular, about this big, for the seating area. Then you will have 420 poles of wood like this, all around. You will have 1,850 kilograms of rope, like this one, also known as Ixtle, that one over there. It measures inside the diameter, hope everyone can see, here inside, it is 60 meters, the diameter. It has capacity for 7,500 people. It is divided in 70 sections. For example, yes, more or less, like this, from this pole to this pole, it will be one section, and so there's 70 sections all around. And what's interesting about that is that the families of the county of Villa de Alvarez, which is where it's made, like for example, if I was like one of the old traditional families, I would have that section, and I would have the poles, I would have the petates, I would have the rope, and then I would keep it in my ranch or in my house if I had a big house. And then when they were about to build it, they would say, hey, you need to bring your things. And then I would bring my section, and then the other family brings their section. So 70 families bring that. And then once it's made, the family has the authority or has the possibility to attend every single event free of charge. But what they do is that they said, okay, I'm going to sell it for you guys that come and visit the Petatera. So I will charge, I don't know, maybe 100 pesos. Oh, come to my section and I give you these seats at the front and I charge 100 pesos. So they can also sell that space that belongs to them. It takes just over 6 weeks of construction. Right now, it is like 99% done. I was there yesterday, took some people yesterday. And it takes right now around 27 artisans to make it. How do they make it? There's a man that comes with this bamboo stick or otate stick, and there's nothing there. I mean, it's flat. Nothing is right there at that, because it's at the county fairgrounds. So he goes with his stick, and he says, just about here. Puts a stick, and then he puts a rope, and takes out the rope and starts making the diameter. Then they mark it, and then on the stick, it has different lines on it. So he said, okay, so the first section goes to this line on the stick, and they start building it. The second section goes to this line, and they start building. There are no floor plans. It's just the stick and the knowledge of the man whose nickname is El Pajarito. And he has been doing it, he's the second generation, he has been doing it for many years now. And it takes, like I said, 6 weeks, and it's considered the biggest handcraft in the world by the Guinness Book of World Records. Why is it the biggest handcraft? Because they build it and they take it down every year. They cannot leave it standing because of the rain. It won't stand, it will get rotten and eventually it will fall. No, it has never fallen. You have 97,500 people with some tequilas jumping and having fun. It goes like this, but it never falls. And then it takes 2 weeks to tear it down. Another interesting thing there is that it has to be ready by February 5th. Why February 5th? Because it is the day of San Felipe de Jesus. And that's why it's like that special day. They start on a Friday, but they will celebrate it on the 5th of February. So that's why it changes sometimes. Not every year is exactly the same date. The first day they begin it, the celebration, they're going to do a big horse parade. And it will depart from downtown Colima through the main streets of Colima all the way until the Petatera is. Normally the first day, last year, 2019, were over 5,000 riders on their horses. So every time it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And in Colima, we have, all over Mexico, you have people that enjoy riding their horse. But especially in Colima, we have a vet that he specializes in horses. And he is from Kamala. He's uncle of my best friend, so I know him very, very closely. And he became so good at it that when people would want to buy a horse, a really good horse, they say, you know what, I want to go to Saudi Arabia, or I want to go to Spain to bid for a horse. They would call him because he would come, he would check on the horse to see if he's okay. No, they're not selling me a horse with something wrong with him. And then once they purchase it, he would take care of all the legal documents to come down. And he would also fly with the horse back to Mexico. Normally when they arrive, and after a year or so, and they have their first pony, but there was another name, they told me the other day. Colt, yes. When they have the first colt, they give it to him. So, he has a variety of horses from all over the world, you can imagine. And then he would say he would also maybe sell it, or he might keep it and then, start reproducing them. And so in Colima especially, we have almost any type of horse you can imagine. You have the Percheron, the one that have you have the Arab horses, you have the Spanish horses. So that's why it's so nice to see it, because you can see a wide variety of horses. And of course, the people that have these horses are not very poor, they're quite rich. And normally they would only take their horses out of the stables for these events. So their horses, like, where do they come from? They live in Colima, but they never take them out. And the way they're dressed, of course, is very nice. The saddles are silver or gold. You know, you see these amazing riders that have, you know, the whole outfit is really, really nice. So that's why it's so nice to see it. The first day, like I said, is at night, and then after the consequent days are during noon. They start at noon, also in downtown Colima, riding through the main streets of Colima into Villa de Alvarez, and then all the way into the bullfighting ring. Have you been to Villa de Alvarez? No? It's the county right next to Colima, and right there in the plaza they have these statues of these horses. People say, yeah, you've been there. Yes. So you have, if you go there, you can actually get on one of the horses. It's a bronze horse. Well, they're big. They're natural size, so you can take your photo, and it's what represents that you're in the horse parade. Why do they will have during this horse parade? They have these characters that are known as mojigangos, which are very big puppets. Have you remember seeing them? Okay, it's a man and a woman, and every year they want to honor someone, and they will change the face of the puppets. And normally it's someone that is has a history in that community, and the locals will recognize who he is. But for example, have you been to the Museum of Popular Arts in Colima? Yes. And the entrance, they will have these puppets, so you can see them, and they have two characters. One is Cantinflas, which is like our Charles Chaplin. He was a very, very, very good comedian. And the other was, she's an actress, which is a very well-known actress in Mexico. So they would use these faces. They put these costumes that are really heavy. They only walk, one person walks with the costume 1 block, and then they give it to the other guy because it's really heavy. Because you don't just walk, they have to go dancing and go like this. And they have these really long arms, so they're like, woo, woo, and then they get close to the crowd, and woo, they comb their hair. They, then you have the bands that the riders hire, the mariachi bands or the banda, and all of these follows all the way until they get to the Petatera. During the day, when they get in, they will do like a rodeo. They would allow some riders to come in, and then they would release some cows or something, and they would rope them. But normally on 2 days during these 2 weeks, they have the actual killing of the bull. This does not happen every day. It only happens twice in these 2 weeks. And eventually this is every year. There are more and more places that are prohibiting this all around the country. Still, they're very, they don't want to lose this tradition in Colima. I hope they do, because they can do it. I think they can think of another way to keep the tradition without killing the bull. But since it's one of a kind in the world, you won't find anything like this in Spain or anywhere in the world. So it's very unique. They still want to keep this tradition of making these bullfighting. So after you have the fiestas, you know, the 2 weeks pass, the fiestas are over. Well, no, still during the fiestas, you have February 14th comes. That's right in the middle of the fiesta. So what happens in February 14th? It is St. Valentine's, right? Okay. So in St. Valentine's Day, the local government puts out the newspaper, some ads on the radio, says, okay, if you're living with someone and you're not married, you can come and get married. like a collective marriage. So you come and they marry like 80 people the same day. So it is cheap. You can, you get a cheap wedding. Yes, and so that's part of the things. They have another day that they try to encourage kids to be part of this tradition. So all the kindergartens, normally it's kindergartens, my daughter was participating in one of those. They have these wooden horses, and then you see the kids, because they want the kids to be involved in the tradition. And that's a very bad day to drive, because you don't want to get stuck in traffic. It takes forever to get out. And so you can see that it's for all ages. They try to keep this, and every year there are people that are starting to come from other states for the parades, to participate in the parades. And so it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. This tradition has been going on. This year will be 163 years. So it's a quite old tradition. They are starting to have you seen there in bullfighting, you have the matador, the person that actually kills the bull, and then you have the rejoneador. You know what the rejoneador is? It's the guy that's on the horse. He doesn't care. Let the horse move. I don't care. I'm on the horse. So if the bull catches on the horse, then the horse is in trouble. And they also have this year. He will be coming. He is on the 19th. What was it? On the 18th. It's Tuesday. Tuesday, February 18th. Oh, he's a very famous bullfighter. He's a rejoneador. He's on the horse. And he will also be attending this year. Do you know more or less how the bullfights are? You have judges, but you know what's the tradition more or less? No. I like to explain this because many people think, oh, they're just going to get there, they're going to kill the bull. It's a little bit more than just that. It's kind of like a sport. I don't like to consider it a sport, but it has rules. You have the center of the ring, and then you have several rings, like you use a bullseye. So you have the bull coming out, and then you see these guys, just stabbing the bull. Why do they stab him? Because the bull has, well, first of all, it's a special bull that is trained to fight. That's the way they train him. Just to ram everything in front of him. And if they don't, they do this to calm him down, because he has a lot of adrenaline. He can actually die if they don't calm him down. So that's why they stab him in a special part here in the back. And so the bull is like, okay, he's starting to calm down. And then you have, after they stab him a couple of times, and then these other guys come with these picadores that have these things that are all decorated, look very nice, but I wish someone put it on their neck, see how they felt. So they would come, and they would also put that on the bull, and then you have the matador that comes out. Oh, okay. What he does, he tries to make the bull go to the center of the ring. And when he does that, he's earning points. And it's not only how well the bullfighter does his moves. It also has to do on how good the bull is fighting. So they also are qualifying how the bull is reacting to the bullfighter. And at the end, they do a couple of passes and say, okay, that's it. They're going to judge. That's why they have judges. They're going to judge if the fighter was good, if the bull was a good fighter, and if he was so-so, they are going to give him. They're going to say, okay, they make a sign and they say, okay, you have like a C+, and they cut one of the bull's ear and they give it to you. And then if he was a little bit better, both of them were better, they're going to cut both ears, and he gets like a B+. And then if he was a little bit better, they're going to cut both ears and the tail. Yeah, this is getting kind of sad. But if he's really good and the bull is really good, they indulge him. They forgive his life, and he becomes a stud. So it's not always sad. Not always the bullfighter wins. Sometimes the bullfighters get killed. But there are like certain rules, and then sometimes you'll see, oh, why is he over there? That he should be in the center, or why now did they cut his tail? No, I don't know what's going on. That's what happens. You know, they judge them, and the crowd also has an important part of this, because at the end, the crowd's like, hey, he was a really good fighter. You grab a white handkerchief, maybe you've seen this, and they go like this. Everyone goes like this. And that's how the judges say, okay, yes, we're going to forgive the life of the bull. And, but it is not all the times this happens. I remember a story that, maybe this was 3 years ago, maybe you were there. They brought this brand new ambulance. And they brought it there. They wanted to show off the ambulance. It was very nice, very high tech. And they put it outside the bullfighting ring. And then the bull comes like, and everyone's like, hey, try to grab him. And then the bull just ran through the fence, goes outside the bullfighting ring, and goes to the ambulance, goes, wham! So the ambulance was like, woo! So sometimes he can do something about it. Well, basically, that's what I wanted to talk about, a little bit about the history, where this has come from. Why do we have the patron of earthquakes? You know why, we have very big earthquakes, and how it's constructed, and what you might see if you visit it, and I think now you can understand it a little bit better. Any questions? We're going to pass on the microphone. There's going to be an exam, all the facts and data.
Is the bull alive or dead when they cut the ears off the tail?
He is dead. He is dead. Yes. Yes. Well, another thing before we continue. Sorry. Have you seen that they have this like big sword? Okay. The bull, when they give the sword to the bullfighter, then he's going to try to put it right here. In this part of the bull, when he has his feet aligned, there's like a hole that is done here, like this. If one foot moves, the hole is closed. So the matador has to be very fast. He's like facing him, and he has to get close to him without him moving an inch. Because if the bull just goes like this, that's why you see that, like, it didn't go through. So that is also, and then he'll try it again, and everyone's like, oh, come on, you're making the bull suffer more. So that's why they have to move the bull with the cape and try to make his feet stand horizontal. So they have this hole that is here in this part of the back. And then he just go real fast. And then if he doesn't succeed, I think after the third attempt, they bring this special little knife like this, and then they cut like an artery or something, and that becomes good. This was not a terror story, but I have to tell you this. Any other question? Yes.
I just wondered if it came from Spain.
Yes, this is originated from Spain.
From Spain.
Yes, this tradition is originated in Spain, but the construction of the bullfighting is from Mexico. We have many bull rings in Colima that are made with metal, that are made with concrete, that are made with wood, but not like this. But this is one of a kind.
Changing the subject, I wondered about the horse parade.
Yes?
What happens with the 5,000 horses when they go through the center of Colima to the Agras and up to the ring? Do they do something that night? Because it's really late.
They poop a lot. Yes, I think that day Colima doesn't sleep, because it starts around 8:30, and it would start maybe, I don't know, I'm just telling a number, saying a number. Maybe 1,000 riders would start at the cathedral, but as they continue going through the city, more riders joining, more riders joining. So at the end, it's not the same amount you see at the beginning and at the end. At the end, you're like, well, really? There were all these horses in downtown? No, because there's not enough space to bring everyone. So they keep on joining, and yes, people, if you wake up early morning, Saturday morning, you still see a lot of horses in the city because they haven't gone to sleep, they're still partying. You actually see like old Mexican movies, the horse riding, the rider like,
I mean, we understand, we've been there a number of times, and I understand that one of the conditions of the that is that the people have to get along with one another.
oh yes,
Other than that, they might be asked to leave and not be a part of it.
yes.
That's a subject, it's interesting.
Yes, of course. You don't want to riot or anything like that. There was one event that they had some musician came, and they allowed people to be also inside the ring. So there were 7,500 on the stage, on the seats, plus another like 3,000. So there's not enough policemen to. If everything goes bad, yeah, then they actually have to cancel that show because there are people coming in from everywhere.
What I was getting at is the guy, the family, 70,
Oh yes,
the 50 to 70 families
yes,
have to get along well.
yes, yes,
Or they're asked to leave.
yes.
They have to build over.
Exactly. Yeah, and they have to do it. They have to keep this tradition. Yes, they have to. Yes. Go ahead.
How long do you keep the structure up?
Well, it goes for the 2 weeks, and I think there are like 2 extra weeks that still you can see it standing. What's interesting also is that when they're building it, we also go and visit it when they're building it, and they sometimes allow us. I have had some people that go down inside the ring, and they allow us to like move the mats and everything. So that's interesting to do. Yes.
Back to the matadors. Who decides to be a matador, and how do they get trained?
I think that is like also like a family tradition. They're like traditional families that have a lot of generations being matador, and I think obviously someone can join. Over here in Colima, there's not a big culture of being a matador, but I lived for several years in Aguascalientes, and there are like a lot of ranches that have small bullfighting rings, and they actually give classes if you want to go. And it's also interesting because over there in Aguascalientes, there's like a tradition that someone has a birthday or something, you invite them to your cortijo is the name, where you have a smaller bullfighting ring, and then you have your barbecue and everything, get your beers, and they say, oh, come on guys, we're gonna go here to the ring. And then you're in the ring, and they're going to take a photo or what? And then they put a little cow, and they give you the cake. I was like, hey, it's your turn. I did that once with my wife. I was sitting there. I said, oh, look at my friends, they're going to get killed. And they said, no, it's your turn. You have to. Like me? Yes, I was like, ooh. Yes, and you get scared, and they're small. I imagine the big ones are half a ton bulls. Really hard. Should be pounded. But yes, there's lots of places where they train you. Have you been to Hacienda La Esperanza? It's on the way to Guadalajara. It's an hacienda that used to be a place where one of the most Mexican bullfighters would go and train, Capetillo, and they actually have a bull ring there, and it's like a small hotel, and you can see the room where he would stay and train. And the bedspread is like the cake or the use for the bull. So it's quite interesting. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I had the experience. It was wonderful that I had the experiences. I've experienced bullfights in Spain also.
Mm-hmm.
and let some people know at first, I don't know this. The bull does not go to waste. The meat goes to
Yes.
the poor.
Yes, exactly. And also they would drink the blood. Yeah, it's like Halloween, you know. Kind of like scary. But yes, that's part of our traditions. Any other question before I pass the exams? Yes, sir.
And if anybody's interested, the horse show starts February the 7th on the Friday night, and then we go Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They all bring up their own kids and horses.
Yes.
And all of them come to this. There's about 3,500 horses that show up in the main ring thing, and then as you say, it grows as a little whole.
Exactly. Yes, it keeps on. People keep on adding up, and you'll see people riding. There's some that are coming. There's a town between Colima and Guadalajara called Ciudad Guzman, and people ride from all over there to Colima on their horse just to go to the parade, and you know, it's fun. I mean, some parts I think are fun. Some parts I think it's a little bit nasty, but in general, I think it's a tradition that people should go and just see it, and at least. Any question?
Well, thank you very much. When people say it's going to talk about these things, what can you say about it, you know? It was really an amazing bit of information. Thank you.
So here you can see a little bit more about. And then you can see the volcanoes in the back. That's also fun.
Yeah.
Yes. This coming February 3rd is going to be 3 years of the last activity of the volcano. It's been very, very calm, so you can come. Don't bring your marshmallows because we won't be able to cook them, but this will be 3 years since it's no activity.
Well, we'll hope it doesn't come this far.
Yes.
So thank you very much. We have a collection basket if you want to make a donation. Half of the money goes to Jupiter and his causes, and the other half goes to our community support fund. And that goes to a whole wide variety of uses around. So no event next Thursday, but the following Thursday it will be, there's a group of young people that are looking at coral preservation in the area, and they're going to talk about the corals, the various coral reefs that there are in this area, and what sort of shape they're in, and what's happening to look after them, what can be done for preserving, and so on. So that should be a completely different topic for us that we've had over the years. So thank you again very much, Jupiter.
Welcome. I love doing this. I love showing our culture and traditions. If there's any topic that you would like to hear me read more information to you about it, I'll be glad to. You can let them know your requests, and we'll try to get the one that most people vote for. Okay? Thank you.
Are there any women bullfighters?
Yes, they are. Yes. Oh, I got a story about that one. Just I'm gonna get in trouble about this. There was a woman. Her name was Maripaz Vega. Maripaz Vega is also the name of my mother-in-law. So the main gate where the bull comes out, and I don't know if you've seen some of the fighters do go like this, and they're like just waiting for the bull. It's like that's a really brave bullfighter. So she was like this, the cape over here, she on the other side, and the bull just went. And then so all the headlines on the news were Maripaz Vega was killed. And I'm like, yes. My wife didn't like the joke.
If you'd like to help us, you can stack the